Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 23 of the World of Sports podcast. I am your host, Diego Sandoval, joined as always by my co host, Logan Ring. Logan, say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody?
Today, we got a good episode ahead. This will be the first ever episode that will go up on our YouTube channel, so be sure to check us out, the World of Sports podcast on YouTube. Today, we're going to be talking about our NFL playoff predictions and our takeaways from the beginning of the NBA season. The season's about 2 weeks done, and we're just going to give what we've learned so far and our takeaways. Follow, as always, follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at TWOS Podcast, TikTok at the World of Sports Podcast, and now YouTube, the World of Sports Podcast. So we're going to start off with some news from around the leagues as we do. Starting off in the NFL, unfortunate news out of Las Vegas. Josh Jacobs celebrating the big win against the Broncos for some reason. Was arrested for a DUI at the Las Vegas airport. He said that he fell asleep, but he's being charged with a DUI. We'll see where it goes. Usually, when athletes get charged with things like this, it's just like fine, which is a little bit messed up, but they're athletes. They can do what they want, it seems like. But yeah, Jacobs charged with the DUI will likely maybe serve a suspension. We're not really sure how the NFL is going to carry that out, but we'll see. Cleveland Browns head coach. I know this hits home, Logan. Kevin Stefanski, two of their coaches and two players have tested positive for COVID, meaning that they are not eligible for this weekend's game against the Steelers. I think that's a big hit for the Browns.
Yeah. Obviously, huge game, first game of the playoffs, and your coach goes down. We saw when the Browns played the Jets that when their receivers went down, they really struggled. They couldn't really practice. Not the exact same situation, but still a blow to the team.
Yeah, what's going on in Cleveland? Are they just like partying all the
Yeah,
time?
I don't know if this is two different like cases or if this is just still running through the clubhouse, but man, we can't catch a break, it seems like.
Yeah. And, someone commented on our Instagram, Dom Roderick commented on our Instagram about how the Browns are in trouble. And I think we're really going to see the impact that Stefanski has because, he came over, this is his first season, and it was like, oh, the head coaching was the problem. He's going to turn around, and he did. So we're definitely going to see his impact kind of on the field. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
for
that
sure.
should be interesting. Also in the NFL, Deshaun Watson is very upset with the Houston Texans right now. Obviously, he's definitely upset they traded away DeAndre Hopkins at the beginning of the season or before this season. And I guess he's very upset that he didn't get any say in the hiring of the new GM. Um, and apparently he just hasn't talked to the Texans in like a week. And we all know one of the worst teams an organization can have is a disgruntled superstar because when your main guy doesn't want to be there, nobody else is really bought in. We're kind of seeing it with James Harden. We don't really know what's happening with
Yeah,
him.
what's up with Houston?
But Houston, I guess nobody wants to be in Texas anymore. But yeah, they kind of did Deshaun Watson dirty. Trading. They were a playoff team last year, and they trade away his best target. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I honestly could see him getting traded. It doesn't look like he really wants to be in Houston, obviously, but that's something to monitor, definitely. And then as they call it, Black Monday for NFL coaches came and went. Black Monday, if you don't know, is the Monday after Week 17, when a lot of coaches get fired just because they weren't good this last season. So the Chargers fired Anthony Lynn, the Jets fired Adam Gase, and the Jaguars fired Doug Marrone. All those things were a long time coming. Adam Gase, in my opinion, should have been fired like week 3. But apparently the Jets really wanted him for the rest of the year to help them lose, probably. But yeah, those 3 guys are out. Not really surprises. All those teams really underperformed this year. So we'll see where they go in terms of hiring. That's all we got from the NFL. In the NBA, unfortunate news out of Orlando. Markelle Fultz has torn his ACL and obviously is out for the season. It's a tough blow for the Magic, who have actually been decent so far.
They're always in the bottom of the playoffs, and they're kind of just stuck there. But man, this just really sucks. Obviously, Markel Fultz was first overall pick. He's supposed to be super good, and then didn't really live up to that. But he was really solid so far this year. I mean, all the criticism he's facing it. I mean, I felt really good for the guy, and then he just goes down with this injury. It just really sucks.
Yeah, he's a guy that you kind of have to root for. Like, he was all the hype, and then he had the thing with his shoulder, and he just kind of petered out basically, but he's kind of revived his career, and it's great to see, but you never want this to happen to especially a guy like Fultz. So, tough blow for the Magic. The Los Angeles Lakers announced that they do want to visit the White House after President-elect Joe Biden is sworn in. Um, and I mean, good. That was a great tradition that was happening in literally always happened until our current president took office and nobody wanted to visit the White House anymore. But yeah, it looks like the Lakers are going to kind of revive that tradition. I'm assuming the Dodgers will probably come up next, and then whoever wins the Super Bowl. But we'll see with that. But the Lakers have expressed their interest in returning to the White House and kind of revitalizing that tradition. And then some G League news. Jeremy Lin is signing with the Warriors affiliate in the G League. Lance Stevenson and Michael Beasley are both entering the G League draft on Monday. So those are three, veterans. They're kind of household names. Most people know those names if you're a fan of the NBA. So they're trying to kind of make a comeback almost. So we'll see where it goes with those guys. I'm sure they're just in it for the rings at this point. I don't think any of those guys are going to get really valuable minutes, but we'll see. That's all the news from the NBA. Now we've got quite a little bit of news from the MLB. We're just going to run through kind of the not as important news. The Dodgers have re-signed relief pitcher Blake Trinan to a 2-year deal, $17.5 million. I think this is a great move for the Dodgers. Pitched really well in the playoffs. Kind of earned that contract on. He was on the 1-year deal. One of those deals where it's like, all right, we're giving you a shot. Prove yourself, and he did. I think it's a good move for the Dodgers. Speaking of the Dodgers, former Dodger Yasiel Puig is getting interest. He wasn't on a team last year, which I was really surprised at. I think he deserves a spot on an MLB roster. He's getting interest from multiple teams, including the Red Sox and the Yankees. So, I'm a Dodger fan. You're an Indians fan. We both had Puig on our teams at one point. What do you think about Puig?
I mean, he's solid. He's just so entertaining to watch. He can, he's a hothead, so he can definitely get into fights. I remember when we traded for him, he was serving a suspension because he got in a fight and then got traded right after, even though he wasn't even on my team. He had to serve the suspension for us. But yeah, he's really exciting and fun to watch. So I'm really surprised he hasn't gotten picked up yet.
Yeah, and you'd think the personality alone would land him somewhere, but I
Yeah.
mean, and he's also got the talent. We've seen probably one of the biggest arms in the league right now. So there's no reason he shouldn't be on an MLB team come this upcoming season. Also in the MLB, George Springer, free agent, former Houston Astro, reportedly wants a $170 million deal in free agency. So he wants to get paid. Just kind of as reference, the best players in the league get 200 plus mil. Like top 10 players in the MLB get 200 plus mil. George Springer, I don't know if I'd call him top 10. He's definitely a top 10 outfielder, I'd say. But 175 mil is a lot. However, there are teams that are willing to spend that, and we've seen that. One of those teams is the New York Mets, and that's kind of a good segue into our last piece of news. Is that Francisco Lindor, after much speculation over the past pretty much 2 seasons, has been traded to the New York Mets, along with Carlos Carrasco, for Ahmed Rosario, Andre Jimenez, and 2 top 10 prospects from the Mets system. In my opinion, as a, not an Indians or a Mets fan, I think this is a slam dunk for the Mets. They really just kind of gave up. They didn't even give up their best prospects, which I figured the Indians could get a lot more from what seemed like their franchise player. Um, but I guess they weren't able to find it. Um, Logan, what's your take on the situation? Because I know you
Uh,
have some stuff to say.
I'm glad that we get your take on this too, because I'm just a salty Indians fan right now. But man, he's my favorite player, and this just happens over and over again. The Indians just trade away their best players. I don't understand what they're doing. I mean, we were great last year. We just didn't have an outfield, and you didn't get outfielders. Like, I don't know if we're trying to rebuild or what we're doing right now. We had to wait like 2 months for this because apparently they were asking for too much, but
Yeah.
this was all you could get for
And
Francisco Lindor,
like,
really.
not to be overstated, they also gave up Carlos Carrasco, and
Yeah, he
he's
just
no
like
like
they threw
slouch.
him in there. He was like our third best pitcher on arguably the best pitching team in the league, and we just threw him in there. I don't know if it was like salaries or what. The Indians hate paying players, and those are our top two, I guess, guys making money. But man, this is just really tough.
Yeah. The Indians, I think, are in probably the toughest position as that a sports franchise can be in. It's that we could be good enough to make the playoffs, but also we're not good enough to win it all. And it gets to the point where you got to go all in one way or another. So we'll see. I mean, they have the reigning Cy Young Award winner. They have guys like Jose Ramirez, your boy Franmil Reyes. Like, they have decent pieces around. Um, I feel like they're just confused in the direction that they're heading.
Yeah, it's happened for the past few years. We traded away Kluber for Delino DeShields because
Yeah,
that's our Cy Young pitcher. We traded away Bauer, the other Cy Young winner, for. I mean, we did actually get Fran Mill from that, so that wasn't terrible. But
but
it's
yeah,
just
it's
all of our best players get traded away, and we were in the World Series in 2016, and then we basically decided to rebuild from then. It just doesn't make any sense.
yeah. We'll see. I really there's really no way to predict which way the Indians are going. It looks like the Mets though are kind of bolstering up and
I
trying
mean,
to
good for
build.
the Mets.
They're trying to build an offense around um, that pitching staff of DeGrom and Syndergaard. And I think that if they can, get a guy like George Springer, they've also been talking with, JT Romuto, DJ LeMahieu. They're pretty much linked to every single major free agent right now. And I think that if they can get one of them, um, they also signed James McCann this offseason. They're going to be a team that will contend in the NL East. So Mets hitting in the right direction, and I think the Indians are just kind of confused right now.
Yep,
That's just my take.
I agree.
All right, that's all we got from news. Let's get into the first kind of segment of this podcast, first of two, and that is our NFL playoff predictions. We are currently recording this, and it will be posted on Friday, January 8th. The first playoff games of Wild Card Weekend are tomorrow. Wild Card Weekend is obviously this weekend. There will be all the wild card games, and the matchups are, if you do not know, Steelers, Browns, Bills, Colts, Titans, Ravens. That's the AFC. In the NFC, it's Seahawks, Rams, Saints, Bears, Bucks, Washington football team. Now let's start in the AFC with the Steelers Browns matchup. This is one of the few that Logan and I have different. And I mean, I kind of told Logan he got to pick the Browns. It's your team. But I do think that the Steelers are the better team. Um, we saw the one game when the Steelers and Browns played and both teams were at full health. The Steelers kind of dominated on both sides of the ball. But I mean, Baker Mayfield, I feel like at this point is a wild card. So he definitely could just ball out, wake up feeling dangerous, as he loves to say. But I do have the Steelers winning this game. I think that their defense will be able to contain him to an extent, and I think that the Steelers offense is going to get them into the next round.
Yeah, the Browns defense definitely has to pick it up. We saw just last game in week 17, the Browns beat the Steelers, but it was basically like the Steelers G League team. And they only won by 2, but I mean, who knows what's going to happen? The Steelers have been like They were 11-0 and then lost 3 in a row, and
To
then
not good teams. So I
yeah.
mean, they're
So
just kind of, I don't know.
I think that they could kind of beat themselves here. And as a Browns fan, I mean, I got to root for my team. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
predict that they're gonna go to the Super Bowl, but I mean, I'm just happy they're in the playoffs, to be honest. But
Right.
I mean, yeah, like you were saying in the first week, the Browns, or at the beginning of the season, the Browns got destroyed by the Steelers. But I think that Baker found himself sort of halfway through the season, and now he's
Hmm.
been a ton better. So yeah, I mean, I hope he wakes up feeling dangerous, because if he does,
He
then
needs to.
yeah, the Browns have a good chance. If he doesn't, they really don't have any.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just going with my
Um,
team.
yeah. In my opinion, the Steelers are the second worst division winner. Obviously, aside from the Washington football
Yeah.
team, any team that comes out of the NFC East. Um, I just wasn't impressed by them really all season. So yeah, that's the prediction for Steelers Browns. And now we pretty much almost have the exact same prediction all the way through, except for one other game, which we'll get to later. But sticking in the AFC, we both have the Bills beating the Colts. Josh Allen has really found himself in these last couple weeks and really turned himself into an MVP candidate. The Colts defense has been really good this year, but I just don't think that it's enough to slow down the Bills at this point.
Yeah. I mean, the Colts defense is mostly just like they can stop the run so easily, but they have struggled with the pass some. I mean, Josh Allen could find holes in that defense. Who knows? I'm going with the Bills for sure for this one.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's one of the closer ones.
it definitely could be a, you know, it's one of those matchups where it's like, does offense win games or does defense win games?
Mm-hmm.
And it should be interesting to watch. I don't think the Colts offense is very special. Philip Rivers is like 82 years old. Um, so I don't see him getting past the Bills. Moving on to the next AFC wildcard matchup. It is the Titans Ravens rematch from last year's wildcard matchup, where the Titans absolutely stomped on the Ravens. Um, I don't think it's going to be a stomping, but I do have the Titans beating the Ravens in this one. Lamar Jackson has looked good to finish off the season. He kind of returned to form after a tough beginning of the season, but I just don't think anyone can stop Derrick Henry at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen Lamar Jackson not really be able to get it done in the postseason for the last couple of years. He won MVP and then kind of just, I don't know, wasn't able to succeed. So yeah, I got the Titans winning too. I hope that Lamar shows up and he's good, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of slander if he's not. But I still got to go with the Titans.
Yeah. And I mean, credit to Ryan Tannehill too. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit. It's a run heavy offense, or obviously, but he's been able to kind of manage that offense really well in the play action game. Um, but yeah, the star of the show is going to be Derrick Henry. It's almost like predicting he rushes for 200 yards every game isn't a long shot, which is insane. Um, but yeah, we both have the Titans winning that game. Now, flipping over to the NFC side of the bracket, the first wild card matchup is the Seahawks and the Rams. Now, last I checked, Jared Goff was very questionable to play. He had surgery on his hand. Um, so yeah, I'm looking at it right now. His status is uncertain, and in my opinion, the Rams cannot win a playoff game without Jared Goff. The quarterback is far and away, we've seen, the most important position in the NFL. Um, and you're just not going to win a game against a Russell Wilson led offense with a backup. So that being said, I think it's pretty obvious I have the Seahawks in this one.
Yeah, I'm the same way. The Seahawks have the worst pass defense in the entire league. And I mean, this just sucks for the Rams, but I mean, that's their weakness, and now they're not going to really be able to even exploit it. So I just don't really see a chance of them winning now.
This would have been a very interesting game if Jared Goff were to play, just
Yeah.
because the Seahawks defense has been terrible.
Hmm.
Um, and it's kind of been like, Russell Wilson, you got to carry this defense. So, but at this point, it's basically like no quarterback. I think the Seahawks have it as a pretty smooth win this weekend. Next wild card matchup is the Saints versus the Bears. Again, aside from the Washington football team, I think that the Bears are the worst playoff team. 8-8, barely kind of snuck in there. They started off like 1-6 or something, and they just I don't know. They've been a weird kind of story this whole year with Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky. But honestly, I think that the Saints are one of the better teams in the league. I've been saying this. They, in my opinion, are the most well-rounded team in terms of offense and defense. And I think getting Michael Thomas back is obviously going to help the Saints a lot. And I don't see this game being very close between the Saints and the Bears.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all that. I don't really have much to say. I think Drew Brees he's got experience. I think he's going to be able to handle his business. I don't really see what the Bears can really do in this situation.
Yeah.
But who knows?
It's going to be up to their defense because their offense has been all right. Like they've been good in the past couple of weeks for sure, but that Saints defense is pretty good, and I don't know how much the Bears can stop the offense. And the final wild card matchup is the Buccaneers versus the Washington football team. Say it together, the NFC sucks. And anyone can predict that the team coming out of the NFC East is gonna get bounced in the first round. They're a sub-8 or sub-500 team with a home game in the playoffs. That I don't even know what to say. Buccaneers are winning this game.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really a lot to say. It sucks as a Browns fan almost missing the playoffs if they went 10-6 and then seeing the Washington football team just being able to make it. But
rip Dolphin fans. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is rough. I thought it was gonna be the Browns because I'm a Cleveland fan and that seems to happen. But I know your pain, so I am sorry. But yeah, everything you said basically, I don't see any way Tom Brady loses. But
Yeah. Moving on. So our picks in the AFC wildcard would lead to, or at least my pick would lead to, a Bills-Steelers matchup. I know yours would be different due to the seeding. So I'm just going to talk about the Bills-Steelers matchup. I think the Bills win this game just flat out. Like I said, the Steelers, in my opinion, aren't a very special team. They didn't really excite me too much this year. And Josh Allen and that offense, I think, can handle the Steelers. Steelers defense, obviously it's going to be a great matchup. Like we said with the Colts and Bills, it's going to be kind of defense versus offense. But I do have the Bills winning this matchup because I just don't really believe that the Steelers offense can outscore the Bills offense.
You done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. For me, it would be the Browns. I mean, it's kind of the same thing you just said. I can say about the Browns. They're not great.
Yours would be Browns.
Chiefs.
Browns Chiefs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Well, same thing for that kind of. Patrick Mahomes. I don't see how he doesn't just exploit the Browns defense. The Browns could, Baker could go off, and I still don't see how the Chiefs don't put up at least like 30 something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're my favorite team to win it all. So I can't pick the Browns even if they're my favorite team. But
right.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Chiefs, my other matchup for the divisional round would be Chiefs Titans, and this would be a game that I think would be a shootout. Obviously, I don't see the Chiefs stopping Derrick Henry. Like I said, nobody's stopping Derrick Henry, but also nobody's stopping the Chiefs at all. And I don't think a team in the NFL can outscore the Chiefs. So they're one of those teams that literally, like, we haven't seen very often, aside from, you could mention The Greatest Show on Turf, where literally just the offense can win the game and defense isn't really necessary, which is crazy to think, but it's what we've seen out of Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I would have the Chiefs beating the Titans in that matchup.
Yeah. So for mine, it would be the Bills beating the Titans. I think that Josh Allen could kind of lead his team with his offense too. I think both these teams are pretty solid at defense, but I mean, it's whoever scores the most, obviously. So I think Josh Allen's gonna, pull through. I think that they're kind of an underrated team in this situation. So,
that sets up an AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and the Bills. I believe we have the same prediction here. We both have the Chiefs winning and representing the AFC once again in the Super Bowl. It pretty much, I think that this would be one of the most exciting games of the year. Chiefs Bills, two very high powered offenses and two average defenses. So, I mean, it'd be fun to watch just because it'd just be Mahomes, Allen, two guys who I think are MVP candidates for the next 5 to 10 years, however long you want to put their careers at. But I think Chiefs Bills will be a really entertaining game. But I do have the Chiefs winning it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think this could be one of the most exciting games of the entire year. It could be a shootout, just scoring. So yeah, I'm excited to see this if it happens, but I got the Chiefs winning.
Yep. It's kind of hard not to pick the Chiefs at this point with how stacked they are and how they have Patrick Mahomes and
Yeah, there's just not a
Patrick
hole
Mahomes.
in their
Yeah,
in their whole team.
right. Now switching over to the NFC. Obviously, we have the Chiefs coming out of the AFC. Now, our matchups for the divisional round would be Seahawks versus Saints. I have the Saints beating the Seahawks in this matchup. Like I said, I think the Saints are the most well-rounded team in the league, and I really do think that the Saints can exploit that Seahawks pass defense with guys like Michael Thomas who can run the short routes, slant boy, and then Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith who can go deep for Drew Brees, and then Alvin Kamara is an obvious monster. So I really do think that the Saints would be able to exploit the Seahawks in that matchup.
Yeah, Drew Brees is an amazing quarterback. He's been in the league for a long time. He knows how to exploit defenses. They have the worst defense for passing in the entire league. I mean, same thing that you said, but I don't see how Drew Brees doesn't score a lot on this team.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then the other divisional round matchup would be Packers versus the Buccaneers. I have the Packers winning this game. And I talked about it in a TikTok, again, at the World of Sports podcast on TikTok. I do think that the X factor for the Packers will be playing at Lambeau Field. We saw was it week 16 in the snow, and it was just even Derrick Henry had some trouble in the snow. So that should just red flag. Um, but it's real. The home field advantage is real, even without fans. Aaron Rodgers obviously knows how to play at Lambeau Field, whereas Tom Brady knows how to play in snow. All those years in New England, but all those other guys are coming from sunny Tampa Bay. They don't know how to play in the snow. Um, that's the main reason. But again, I just also think that the Packers offense is deadly, and I think that they beat the Buccaneers in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I guess I'll just talk about Tom Brady. His legacy could be even better if he wins this game. That would just be insane.
Yeah.
He already has the championships, everything. But if he goes to the Bucks and then is able, I mean, if he wins a Super Bowl, that's insane. But even if he gets that far, I mean, it's just impressive. Who knows? I can't count him out. So, I mean, I think this will still be a good game. But yeah.
I'm not the biggest Brady fan, just because I don't like cheaters, and also the tuck rule. As a salty Raiders fan, but you have to respect him. For years it was like, oh, Belichick is winning these games, but I mean we've seen this year he's brought the Bucks back to the playoffs, and the Patriots are nowhere to be seen in the playoffs. So, I mean, I think that proves in and of itself that he was the guy and he was the reason why they were winning.
Yeah.
So that sets up an NFC Championship matchup of the Saints versus the Packers, and this is our other difference in our brackets. I have the Saints beating the Packers. A lot. I think maybe some of it comes from the fact that I just want Drew Brees to make the Super Bowl in his final season, because I mean, most likely he's going to retire. But I also like this matchup for the Saints. Excuse me. I think it's going to be a good game. Two good offenses, two good defenses. But I think that the Saints are going to be able to get the best of the Packers.
Yeah, I got the Packers winning. I think that their offense is just insane. I think this could go both ways, but Aaron Rodgers, MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, you can argue Patrick Mahomes, I think, is the best quarterback in the league, but Aaron Rodgers had an amazing season this year.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an insane stat where he has more pass touchdowns than the whole Packers have punts, I think, which is just like,
Yeah.
how does that even happen? But yeah, I think that this is going to be a really close game. It's one of our only differences. So, I mean, hopefully the Packers pull out for me, but
Yeah. Yeah. When you have games where your punter doesn't leave the bench, you're a good team. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm really looking forward. I think that if our AFC and NFC championship games end up happening, I think those two games would be very fun to watch. For me, that sets up a Super Bowl of the Chiefs versus the Saints. The Chiefs are winning. It's kind of the boring pick, but sometimes boring is just the right pick. And I think they're far and away the best team in the NFL. And that's crazy to say, even though they have a mediocre defense. I mean, the only game they lost was to, my Raiders and the Chargers, but that doesn't count. They had
Their G League team.
I don't think they had no Mahomes, no Tyreek Hill, no Travis Kelce. That's enough. But they also didn't have a lot of their defense. But yeah, I don't see anyone stopping the Chiefs, period. So I have the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl back to back.
Yeah, for me, it'd be Chiefs beating the Packers. We both have the same Super Bowl winner. Mahomes is insane. Their offense is just crazy. They have so many weapons. The Packers offense is insane, and it's still not even close to the Chiefs. So yeah, it's a really boring pick, but I got to go with it.
Yeah, we'd rather be right. So that's what we've got for our NFL playoff predictions. We both had the Chiefs winning it all. A couple differences here and there, not many. But yeah, wild card weekend is this weekend. Looking forward to watching some of these games. If you have strong opinions, go to TWOS on Instagram. TWOS podcast on Instagram. I'm gonna be posting some polls on the Instagram story. Get your guys' takes. Now, moving on to the second and final segment of this podcast, we are going to be talking about our takeaways from the NBA season. We both have a couple of things written down of what we've kind of seen. I'd say we're both following the NBA pretty closely, just daily, basically, just checking up on scores, players, stats, stuff like that. And I'll go first. A big storyline going into this season was Steph Curry, how he would kind of bounce back, how he would play without, Durant for the first. Obviously, no Durant last year, but Steph only played very little games. I can't remember the number, but how he would kind of come back. And this isn't to say that Steph is having a bad season by any means. He's playing well. It's just, I think it's pretty obvious that he can't carry this Warriors team to the playoffs. Right now, they're 4-4. Like I said, Steph has been good individually, but with the team that's around him right now, I don't think that they're a playoff team. They've lost every single game that he has scored less than 30 points, and I think that's kind of a key red flag there, where if you need someone to go off for more than 30 points every night, your team has problems. So I just don't see the team right now built around Steph Curry making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's an extended playoffs this season, so maybe they can get in that playoff game, but the West is just so tough. And if they were in the East, I would absolutely have them in there, but
Oh yeah.
it's just really hard. And I mean, Steph, he's been able to play really well against bad teams. He played against the Blazers. He put up at what is 62, but the Blazers have a terrible defense. So that's my point. You saw last game, he went against the Clippers. I think he put up like 13 on like 20 something percent shooting. So if you're a really good defensive team, then you can kind of just target him. And Wiggins has been better, but Kelly Oubre still just cannot hit a shot from three. Draymond coming back has been a big help, even though his stat sheet might not show it, but he's a solid player, and it just sucks. I mean, as a huge LeBron fan, because I'm a Cavs fan, I think this kind of just shows what LeBron did and what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Curry is an insanely talented player, but even he can't carry a team this bad. And yes, LeBron was in the East, which absolutely helps. But yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
just shows.
definitely gives me a lot more respect for 2018 LeBron when it was literally
Yeah.
him against that Warriors team. Um, but and I had a comment in one of my TikToks where it was like, oh, a guard can't carry a team. You can't compare, but like you can. Like
Yeah.
the prime example of that is Allen Iverson. He he was able to get that Sixers team to an NBA Finals, but he obviously never won one. But it's pretty obvious that you can, as a guard, carry your team. And this isn't to say it's entirely Steph Curry's fault. I just don't think the guys around him are performing very well. Um, but yeah, bottom line is I don't think that this team, as it is right now, can make the playoffs in the West.
Yeah, I agree. You want me to take the second one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the Suns have taken a major step forward. They're actually looking great. And this is really good because Devin Booker still hasn't even played that well. I have him on my fantasy team, so I know that.
Yeah,
But
same with Chris Paul. He's not performing for me as much as I want.
yeah, the role players have been great. I mean, I think it's Chris Paul's leadership that's really
Yeah,
showing how you know important he is to any team. Um, and it's just awesome because the Suns have been bad for so long. But I think this is a legit playoff team. I don't see them winning much in the playoffs, but who knows? And I think that they can give the best teams problems. They're six
yeah,
and two. They've been in every game they've played. They got down really huge to the Clippers, I think like 25 in like the first quarter, and then they brought it back to like almost a game-winning shot at the end. I think they're solid. They're super young, so I think they're going to be good for a while. And yeah, this just proves how great Chris Paul is.
yeah. Definitely a bright future ahead. Really, I mean, we know Chris Paul's older, but if you have a duo of Booker and Aiton like they do, who are still so young and already succeeding like this, we know that franchise is heading in the right direction for sure. Okay, we've got breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, from the New York Post. The New York Mets, as spoken about before, are talking about a Chris Bryant trade with the Chicago Cubs.
Man,
Um,
that could be
okay,
exciting.
okay, the Mets are in it. The Mets are in. New owner Steve Cohen. Um, looks like he wants to get good now. And the Cubs, I think, are really, it's interesting. The two World Series teams from 2016 are kind of just like in this weird place where it's like we were good, we made the World Series, but now what? So yeah. Anyways, that's just some breaking news. No definitive stuff, but Chris Bryant to the Mets has been discussed. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. The Philadelphia 76ers. Um, I've watched a good amount of their games this um this season, mostly for Joel Embiid for the fantasy reasons. But I think that they really might have found the missing piece for their team and can legitimately contend for an Eastern Conference title. We obviously pretty much knew going in they were going to be one of the best teams in the East. The East is just not very good, but they always needed shooters. That was always their thing. Any team with a point guard that can't really shoot is going to need guys around him that can shoot. Um, they went out and picked up Seth Curry, who's averaging 17 points this year. And then Danny Green as well. As a Lakers fan, I've got mixed feelings about Danny Green, but I mean, bottom is he's a good spot up. Bottom line is he's a good spot up 3-point shooter, except for when it's a game-winning shot. But that shooting, and also to credit Doc Rivers, I think that they've kind of found a good combination. And I know you have something to say about the 76ers as well, but I really do think that they found what they needed to legitimately contend in the East.
Yeah, we saw their first season of Embiid and Simmons together. They were fantastic. And then kind of since then, the next couple years, they just kind of lowered their efficiencies and didn't seem to work well together. But I think it was more the guys around them that didn't work. It was never really the two of them. And now they're both playing at an all-star level. They've been great. I think their numbers are sustainable, which is the best part about it. And guys like Seth Curry, who's putting up like 17.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's shooting insane numbers, so that might go down. But also like Danny Green and Tobias Harris kind
Yeah.
of still haven't showed up as much as they can yet. So I think that can go back up. So yeah, I think these are sustainable numbers. So the 76ers have figured it out, in my opinion.
Yeah, the process was trusted.
Hopefully it's here for
I
those
wouldn't
fans.
call it the process anymore, really. I just feel like the process was like almost failed, but because they brought in a new coach, so that kind of ended the process. But I think that this new process is working. So Sixers look good. Yeah. Also, one of the top Eastern Conference teams, at least in terms of talent for sure, is the Brooklyn Nets. And I think it's pretty obvious as right now, Kevin Durant is on the COVID tracing list. I believe that's what they call it, something like that. So he's missed the past couple games, but in the games that he has played, he's averaged 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. And I think that alone speaks that I don't really think that the injury set him back that much. I think we talked about a little bit how Durant's one of those players where it's like the Achilles injury, he wasn't too, he didn't rely on his speed or athleticism, stuff like that too much. He was just kind of a pure scorer. Um, so, but I mean, Achilles injuries, you never really know how a guy's going to bounce back from that. And KD's bounced back well. And I think that that's going to help the Nets a lot in this long run.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Kevin Durant fan, but I never want to see a player just get injured and not
Mm-hmm.
look the same. But yeah, so I'm happy for him that he's playing so well. I think that the Nets are still a wild card team, but man, they look good when they're good.
Yeah.
And Kyrie on that team has been great too. He was kind of a question mark. And I don't know if you've seen the report, but he's just
He
kind of
just
sitting out games
he
for
just like
personal
doesn't
reasons.
want to go. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm not there's no real reports about it for what that exactly is. So
which
that's something to
which
keep an eye
actually
on.
could come back to bite him because I saw this thing according to like the NBA league, like if you don't cite a reason, then you're gonna start like getting fined or like suspended or something. So he just can't say personal reasons. Like you gotta say something, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just not really sure what it is. I'm sure
yeah,
something will come out eventually, but just a
mhm,
little bit of a weird situation.
yeah,
So next team that we're going to talk about is the Hornets. I think that they're making a huge mistake with not starting LaMelo Ball, or at least not playing him a lot more minutes. Just a couple stats for you. The starting point guard is Devonte Graham, and he's playing 32 minutes. And with that, he's averaging 10 points on 25% shooting. LaMelo is only averaging 22 minutes, so 10 less, and he's averaging 12 points on 41% shooting. He also has 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's your point guard of the future. He's looking better than your starter. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me why you wouldn't start a guy like that. He also brings in viewership
yeah,
and money. So yeah, I think this is going to get fixed in the future, but it's just really weird that this hasn't happened yet.
yeah. I'm a big LaMelo Ball guy, and also a Devonte Graham fantasy owner, and he has not been good. Um, but I mean, in my opinion, they should have started LaMelo from the jump. And even just shifted Devonte to the shooting guard, which I mean they could experiment with that, and see how he plays at that position, just because he hasn't been very good at the point guard at this so far in the season. But yeah, I think it's going to happen soon. LaMelo really is the face of that franchise at this point already, um, and I don't see a reason why LaMelo shouldn't be starting in that lineup right now. And our last little takeaway are the New York Knicks. Um, for a very long time, at least in recent years, the Knicks have kind of been just a
Terrible.
garbage fire, anything. But I mean, they're kind of off to a good start.
Yeah, they're like fun too.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I think bringing in Tom Thibodeau has been a huge reason for that. He places guys a lot of minutes. Julius Randle and RJ Barrett are leading the league in minutes. He does that to his best players. But I want to talk about Julius Randle, who I have in
Yeah.
fantasy. He is an absolute stud, averaging 23, 12, and 7.5 assists. That's just crazy numbers. This is what the Knicks wanted last year when they signed him. He was their huge free agency signing, which looked horrible. But yeah, he's been fantastic. RJ Barrett has been good too. He's putting up the numbers, but he's also shooting like 20% from three or something. So I don't know if that's really helping the team that much, but who knows?
Yeah.
But
I liked Julius Randle when he was on the Lakers. I never expected him to play like this. You know, literally that's a like top 3, top 5 power forward in the league type numbers right there.
yeah,
And I didn't expect it. Um, but I mean, good for him and good for the Knicks. You know, they needed
yeah,
something.
yeah. They're also playing amazing defense. I don't know if I mentioned that, but top defense in the league and top 10 defense. I think that's Tom Thibodeau for sure, but
Yeah.
they were horrible last year, so that's a huge step.
Yeah, respect goes to Thibodeau. I feel like sometimes NBA coaches don't get enough credit. We gave some credit to Doc Rivers too. They coaches can really turn around an entire franchise, which is
JB Bickerstaff for the Cavs too. Just got
JB
to mention
Bickerstaff.
that.
All right, you want to mention Sexland, Colin
Yeah,
Sexton and
sure.
Darius Garland, by the way.
Yeah, one of the best duo nicknames ever, by the way. But Colin Sexton is finally getting some of the respect he deserves. I'm a big Cavs fan. I'm watching every game. So, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely 100% biased, but he's averaging like 26 points on insane efficiency. Darius Garland has put up like 17 and 6. Um, they just look great. Also, Isaac Okoro, the rookie, came up big last game. He's like really good defender. Hasn't been able to show the offense that much, but yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about the Cavs because I don't think anybody cares. But
Yeah,
I'm excited for him.
there's your little Cavs snippet. But anyways, that's all we've got for today. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the podcast. To recap, we talked about breaking news. We talked about Francisco Lindor. We talked about the Mets. We talked about our NFL playoff predictions and how we think the Chiefs are unstoppable and nobody can ever beat them ever. And then we ended off with our NBA takeaways from the first couple weeks of the season. But yeah, again, follow us on all our social media platforms. And for my co-host Logan Ring, my name is Diego Sandoval, signing off.